This episode is brought to you by Temptations Cat Treats. Your cat will come running for the perfectly irresistible Temptations Creamy Puree and Temptations Lickable Spoon Cat Treats. The best time to feed lickable cat treats to your cat is anytime. Feed by hand for a playful moment, in a bowl for a creamy treat, or as a topper to make mealtime fun. Visit TemptationsTreats.com to learn more.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Sponsored by Secure Cash, LLC. Talking the news with Noah Layden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noah.
On 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Thursday, May 22nd. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Cloudy, pop-up showers. The high only going to be 54. It's cold and just nasty out there right now. Tonight and overnight, cloudy, low 48. And then Friday, cloudy, high 63. If you are walking out the door with us right now, it is 49 and raining in Nyack up in Rockland County, 53 and raining in Asbury Park down to the Jersey Shore, and it's 48 and misty right outside our Midtown studios.
The top 5 at 5.
2 Israeli embassy workers shot dead in D.C. Is the Justice Department helping Cuomo's campaign? Knick fans shaking their heads this morning. A Queens father saved his daughter from a sicko. A Long Island town has been named the nicest in New York. All right, let's get into it. 5:01 down to D.C., where 2 Israeli embassy staffers were gunned down outside an event at the Capitol Jewish Museum in D.C. last night by a gunman who eyewitnesses say shouted "Free Palestine" as he was taken into custody. Deadly gunfire erupted outside the museum. This was about 9 o'clock last night. The gunman in custody, he is a Chicago resident named Elias Rodriguez, 30 years old. He was apprehended by event security right after the shooting. And in fact, eyewitnesses say they saw him pacing back and forth outside the museum leading up to the shooting. He even allegedly flashed a handgun in front of a group of 4 people right before opening fire. An Israeli embassy spokesperson saying in a statement that the 2 staffers were shot at close range. The museum is located right on 3rd Street. It's actually right near an FBI field office and the U.S. Attorney's Office. The FBI's Joint Terror Task Force investigating. There was a big press conference late last night with a lot of people involved, including Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, who said the acts of hate would not be tolerated in the nation's capital.
We will not tolerate any acts of terrorism, and we're going to stand together as a community in the coming days and weeks to send a clear message that we will not tolerate anti-Semitism.
Also at this press conference, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi, the Israeli ambassador, they both raced to the site where the shooting took place. She spoke out during the press conference.
We have the FBI, all of our federal agencies will work hand in hand with you, Chief, as we have done, and you, Mayor, to do everything we can to keep our citizens safe. We will follow the facts, we will follow the law, and this defendant, if charged, will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Ted Deutsch is the CEO of the American Jewish Community. He says, committee rather, and he said that his organization was hosting this event at the museum when the shooting took place. Now, there's been lots of comment from all across the spectrum. We heard from the president last night. He called the shootings horrible, radicalism. We don't know a whole lot about the shooter. I'm sure we'll find out in fast time who he is. FBI Director Kash Patel says he's working with the Metropolitan Police Department to respond and learn more. The Israeli ambassador to the United States calling the incident shocking, but he says the U.S. and Israel would stand together.
The people of Israel are resilient people, and the people of the United States of America are resilient people. Together we won't be afraid. Together we'll stand, and we're going to overcome moral depravity of people who think that they're going to achieve political gains through murder.
Okay, so here's what we know at this early hour at 5:04 in the morning. The 2 people are dead. New York Post reportedly saying the 2 were a couple that were walking out of this event and were about to get engaged The mayor saying, reassuring the community that there's no active threat. And then this gunman, who we know his name, Elias Rodriguez, we know he's from Chicago. The police chief in Washington is saying so far they don't see any connection to terrorism. Here's what she had to say last night.
Don't see anything in his background that would have placed him on our radar at this time. But again, our Joint Terrorism Task Force is working very closely with the FBI to ensure that we can do a deep dive into his background.
Now, of course, as more details on this shooting come into us, we'll pass them on to you. 5:05. The timing of that Department of Justice investigation into former Governor Cuomo's handling of the COVID pandemic continues to raise some eyebrows. Of course, comes just weeks before the mayoral primary on June 24th. The investigation into Cuomo revisits a years-old question over then governor's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic in nursing homes. Republicans zeroing in on the controversial directive his administration issued back in March of 2020 that initially barred nursing homes from refusing to accept patients just because they had COVID. Of course, that led to a lot of deaths. The mayoral candidates in the race who are up against Cuomo, who's leading them by a lot. I mean, it's not even close, are trying to figure out how to navigate this story. Here was Brad Lanter yesterday.
Why do we need his chaos and corruption? New Yorkers are sick and tired of it.
And Zohran Mamdani was in the uncomfortable position yesterday. He's running second to Cuomo, but still far behind in the polls. Found himself defending Cuomo against Donald Trump.
While I believe that New Yorkers should reject the disgraced ex-governor on June 24th, I find the Trump administration's actions to be dangerous.
Yeah, and the Cuomo campaign, they are outwardly saying that they're very angry about this investigation. Here's political consultant Hank Scheinkoff, who thinks Cuomo could cash in on this investigation.
If he's taking on Andrew Cuomo, then Andrew Cuomo is the kind of guy that a lot of New Yorkers will want. Why? They're looking for someone with the courage to take on Donald Trump and in that Democratic primary, and therefore Andrew Cuomo fits the bill.
Mayor Adams, whose indictment was recently dismissed by the Justice Department, didn't really want to talk a whole lot about this investigation.
It is up to the criminal justice system to take its course. I'm not going to do what others did to me. I'm going to be focused on running the city and running for re-election, and the other agencies will do what they are supposed to do and do it in an appropriate fashion.
And the Cuomo campaign, they're not messing around. They already come out with a commercial that says, hey, if Donald Trump is attacking Andrew Cuomo, that means New Yorkers should vote for Andrew Cuomo. Here's what it sounded like.
First, they arrested a liberal judge in Wisconsin.
Trump administration's latest assaults on American liberty.
Then a Democratic congresswoman in New Jersey. Then they went after New York's Attorney General. Now they're attacking Andrew Cuomo to interfere with New York City's election. Why? Because Andrew Cuomo is the last person they want as mayor. An experienced leader who'll stand up to bullies, bring New York back, and deliver for the people of this city. If Donald Trump doesn't want Andrew Cuomo as mayor, you do.
Yeah, so some insiders will tell you that this criminal investigation was only boost Andrew Cuomo's campaign for mayor. WABC News Time 5:09. Did you stay up and watch the game last night? Game 1, Pacers against the Knicks, Eastern Conference Finals. They lost, if you didn't stay up to watch the game. The Knicks were up by 14 points with a little over 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and they just fell apart. The Pacers raced back to tie the game. It went into overtime, and the Pacers stole game 1. Big deal for them, of course, at the Garden. So now we'll have to wait for Friday night for game 2. And do you remember all those years ago, Reggie Miller just doused or killed us on the court at Madison Square Garden? God, was he good. Maybe Tyrese Halliburton is the new version of Reggie Miller because he's the one who killed us last night. So Jalen Brunson, of course, the Knick, talking about last night's game.
I mean, in the playoffs, when you win, it's the best thing ever. When you lose, the worst thing ever. And so the best way to deal with all that is just stay level-headed. Obviously, not the way we wanted to finish the game. But tomorrow we're going to have to watch film and get better and just making sure that we're ready for game 2.
I bet a lot of you who did stay up to watch the game, because if you're up at this early hour, that means staying up, probably went to sleep when the Knicks were up 17 points in the fourth quarter and woke up and you're like, what the hell happened? I think the Knicks thinking the same thing. Here's Karl Anthony Towns.
I mean, it's our job to make history. So we're not here to repeat history. We're here to make history. So that doesn't pop into my mind. I only think about the present and what we could do right now so we can make our own history.
Yeah, the man that never smiles, Knicks coach Tom Thibodeau, who always looks like something's wrong, reflecting on how Game 1 just slipped away.
They can score the ball. Nesmith got loose. Halliburton hit big shots. You just can never let your guard down against them. No lead is safe.
All right, just one game. But we're not used to winning, so here we go. Game 2, Friday night, back at the Garden. I'm excited for that. Down in Washington, tensions running really high at the White House yesterday as President Trump confronted the presidents of South Africa over allegations of genocide against white Afrikaners. There were reporters, the president of South Africa, Ramaphosa, present in the Oval Office when the President Trump played video clips he says proves there's a genocide against white Afrikaners.
They're being executed, and they happen to be white, and most of them happen to be farmers. Mm-hmm. And that's a tough situation. I don't know how you explain that. How do you explain that?
Ramaphosa denying the allegations, telling President Trump there's a minority party behind the tensions between blacks and whites. He wants to stress that he wants to sit down and talk about the issue. South African native Elon Musk has been outspoken critic of the current government. He was attending this meeting, as was pro golfer and South African native Ernie Els, who told both leaders that he wants to see peace and things get better. President Trump still talking about these white Afrikaners here.
People are being executed, and in many cases it's not the government that's doing it, it's people that kill them and then take their land, and nothing happens to them. But we have thousands of people that want to come into our country. They're also going to Australia. They won't even report this. If this were the other way around, it would be the biggest story. Now, I will say, apartheid, terrible. That was the biggest story. That was reported all the time.
Yeah, it was another uncomfortable meeting, kind of similar to the one with Zelensky a couple months back. 5:13, House Republicans working to push through President Trump's budget priorities. Some conservatives feel this bill that they're pushing doesn't make enough cuts to spending. Here's Texas Congressman Chip Roy.
We want to save money. We want to save as much money as we can. But we want to do it the right way to deliver for hardworking Americans who are getting left behind by a government here, Republican and Democrat, who keeps spending money we don't have.
Spending bill must first make it through the Rules Committee, which started meeting about 1 a.m. Speaker Mike Johnson says he hopes a vote will take place soon on the legislation. Here's more from Chip Roy.
The fact of the matter is, this has massive savings in the out 5 years, and it has massive deficits in the first 5 years because we're not addressing the structural reforms.
And, of course, the president visited Congress earlier this week trying to get Republicans to get this thing done. 5:14. U.S. is officially accepting that luxury jet from Qatar to use as Air Force One now.
The Defense Department confirmed the news on Wednesday. A spokesperson said Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth accepted a Boeing 747 from the Middle Eastern country in accordance with all federal rules and regulations. They said the DOD will work to ensure proper security measures are considered for an aircraft used to transport President Trump. It comes as the president has faced criticism over accepting the jet. I'm Lisa Carton.
All right, in a moment, we're going to tell you how President Trump is again weighing in on the Department of Justice investigation into our New York's Attorney General, Letitia James. He had a lot to say about this yesterday. We'll get into that in just a moment. But first, 5:15, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. A tough night for the Knicks. Justin Ellick.
Thank you, Noam Layden. Yep, we're going to start here at the Garden. Quite the collapse last night. The Knicks choking away Game 1 of their Eastern Conference Final Series against the Indiana Pacers. The final score 138-135 in overtime after Indiana's Tyrese Halliburton hit a jumper as regulation ended to stun MSG and force the extra time. The Knicks led by 14 with under 3 minutes remaining in regulation. But Aaron Naismith brought the Pacers back with a flurry of three-pointers. Halliburton then hoped he had won it with another, with the Pacers down 2 and time running down. He started to lose control of his dribble, regained it, and dribbled back out toward the three-point line. He fired up his jumper, and when it finally fell in, he raced toward the sideline and made a choke signal to the crowd, like Pacers Hall of Famer Reggie Miller did to Spike Lee. while leading an Indiana comeback in a playoff game in 1994. Replay confirmed that Halliburton's toe was on the line, and it was a two-pointer that tied it at 125. Andrew Nemhard eventually made the go-ahead basket with 26 seconds remaining in OT. Jalen Brunson scored 43 points, and Karl Anthony Towns had 35 points and 12 rebounds. Teams leading by at least 14 points in the final 2 minutes and 45 seconds of the fourth quarter had been 994-0 since detailed play-by-play.
Really?
I swear to God.
That's great.
Being kept in the late 90s. Game 2, Noam-Laden, is Friday night from MSG, dare I say.
Well, the Knicks have played better on the road, so we have that going for us. So hopefully that'll be the case here.
Well, I mean, you're back home on Friday.
No, I meant, going forward.
Oh, going forward?
Yeah.
Well, you got to win on Friday at home, don't you think?
Yeah, and then you would take one or two away from the Pacers in Indiana. So.
Yeah, ideally too, man. Yeah, I mean, everybody was saying Knicks in 5, so where are they now?
Well, they're down 1 game zip is where they are. Yeah.
Tonight on the hardwood, the Timberwolves and the Thunder. They'll meet again in OKC. OKC leads that series 1-0. That's an 8:30 p.m. tip tonight for the Western Conference Finals. To the MLB in the Bronx, Jason Dominguez homered in the bottom of the 9th inning to rally the Yankees to a 4-3 walk-off win over the Texas Rangers. Up next for the Yanks, the lefty Carlos Rodon gets to start in this afternoon's finale of this 3-game set against Texas as the Yanks go for the sweep. First pitch is scheduled for 12:35 p.m. Early start from Yankee Stadium in Boston. Brett Beatty drove in 3 runs on 2 hits, including a 2-run single to break a 7th-inning tie and help the Mets avert a 3-game sweep by beating the Red Sox 5-1. Up next for the Mets, they'll open up a 3-game series against the Dodgers in New York on tomorrow night, starting tomorrow night, I should say, after an off day today. And to the NHL from last night, from Dallas, the Stars doubling up the Oilers 6-3 in Game 1 of the Western Conference Final. Dallas leads that series 1-0. That is your Sports Gnome, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:19 down to D.C. President Trump is again weighing in on the Department of Justice investigation of New York's Democratic Attorney General Letitia James. At the Oval Office yesterday, Trump says James committed major fraud with her real estate transactions years ago.
She signed in Virginia, yet she said she lived in Virginia, yet she's the New York State Attorney General. She did that for tax reasons, so she could take advantage of taxes.
James has been outspoken after these allegations, denying them, saying that it's just retribution for the many state cases she brought against Donald Trump.
It's major fraud, mortgage documents, and fraudulent everything.
FBI has confirmed it's working with the DOJ on this case. Overseas, Russian President Vladimir Putin made a visit to western Kursk region yesterday.
It marked the first time he stopped by since Russian forces ejected Ukrainian troops from the area last month. Russia said that it removed Ukrainian forces and put an end to the biggest incursion into Russian territory since World War II. According to the Kremlin, while in Kursk, Putin met with volunteer organizations in the region and went to the Kursk 2 nuclear power plant. I'm Brian Shook.
Israel has allowed dozens of humanitarian aid trucks into Gaza after an 11-week blockade, but so far no food has reached Palestinians in the territory. Here's correspondent Matt Bradley.
We heard from the United Nations head of humanitarian affairs. He said that some 14,000 children, babies, could die within 48 hours if the situation doesn't change. And we've already heard from monitoring groups saying that the whole enclave is on the brink of famine.
Now, here's the issue, is that the Hamas terrorists are hiding in these areas, these enclaves where the food needs to get to. And, of course, that causes a problem because Israel wants to get to those terrorists.
The situation in the Gaza Strip for the people there is getting worse and worse. And so far, it sounds like even though the Israelis have said they're going to be letting in this aid, no aid has actually gotten to the hands of the people who need it most. The situation is bad and getting worse. And on top of that, Israel has expanded their military operations there, battering the Gaza Strip. They say striking Hamas targets with more and more airstrikes. Now, dozens of people are being killed every day, sometimes hundreds for the past several weeks.
522. Let's bring it back to the U.S. Washington Governor Bob Ferguson filing a friend of the court brief to support a lawsuit against President Trump's tariffs. Ferguson says the tariffs are illegal.
The Constitution is clear. Congress, not the president,
ultimately has the power to impose tariffs on global trade.
Now, he says Washington State is one of the most trade-dependent states, and he says the tariffs is going to cost them anywhere from $18 to $21 billion. So there is this coalition of 24 groups that have joined Ferguson to tell the court stories about how the tariffs will impact states financially.
The uncertainty caused by those tariffs has caused them to lose large projects totaling $250,000 in sales. Altogether, the illegal tariffs could cost Washington companies an estimated $18 to $21 billion. That's a statistic from the Washington Council on International Trade.
523, the Justice Department dismissing Biden-era investigations into the Louisville and Minneapolis police departments. Louisville Mayor Craig Greenberg welcoming the news yesterday.
We did not oppose DOJ's motion to dismiss today because we see the writing on the wall. And it's time to move forward.
DOJ making the announcement yesterday said the lawsuits were filed last minute by the Biden administration after President Trump was reelected. Lawsuits accused the departments of widespread patterns of unconstitutional policing practices tied to race. The the mayor of Louisville pushing back on that.
We can't afford any more delays. There's no point in delaying the inevitable. Let's focus on those reforms and improvements, and that's why we did not object.
DOJ says it's also ending investigations into other departments, including Phoenix, Trenton, New Jersey, Memphis, Mount Vernon, New York, Oklahoma City, and the Louisiana State Police. Up to Boston, 524. Jurors in Karen Reed's murder retrial in Massachusetts have been dismissed for the week. They won't be back till Tuesday. The trial was paused yesterday. Then the judge questioned jurors over an undisclosed issue, then came back with a warning to them.
It is very, very important that no one discuss this case. Don't let anyone talk to you about the case. No comments about the case.
Not clear what that was all about, but jurors then heard from a prosecution witness, a brain surgeon, who described John O'Keefe's injuries as consistent with a fall backward, leading to a brain injury. Reed is accused of hitting her former Boston cop boyfriend O'Keefe with an SUV after a night of drinking and leaving him in a snow to die. Reed's lawyers say she's innocent and is being framed. The brain surgeon, here he was on the witness stand.
His injuries were very substantial, and it's more probable than not that at some point he quickly became unconscious.
Yeah, brain surgeon Dr. Aziz Wolf described John O'Keefe's injuries as consistent with a fall backward, but under defense cross-examination, he concurred that a cut above O'Keefe's eyes could not be explained.
This injury has nothing to do with that, correct?
Correct.
We go from Massachusetts down to Delaware. Delaware becoming the 11th state yesterday to legalize assisted suicide. The Democratic governor there, Matt Meyer, signing the End-of-Life Options Act, which allows doctor-assisted suicide for certain terminally ill patients.
We're acknowledging today that even in the last moments of life, compassion matters.
The measure will take effect sometime next year, will allow mentally capable adults who've been given 6 months or less to live the option to end their lives, which makes sense to me.
Every Delawarean should have the right to face their final chapter with peace, dignity, and control. People should be able to make the hard choices that they need to make based on their own faith. You're talking about some of the most challenging and hardest moments of life, moments that none of us ever dream or desire to be in.
526, United Health Group, the stock, they lost 5.8% at the market close yesterday. On the news, the company secretly paid nursing homes to cut down on hospital transfers.
The news was reported by The Guardian, which looked at corporate and patient records, court files, interviews, and whistleblower allegations. The practice allegedly saved the company millions but risked the health of patients. United Health denied the allegations, noting the Justice Department conducted a lengthy investigation and decided not to pursue the matter. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
Hey, business owners, make your cash secure again with Secure Cash, LLC. Transporting your business's cash safely in armored trucks. SecureCashLLC.com. It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Sponsored by Secure Cash, LLC. Talking the news with Noah Layden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noah
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me, 5:35. Good morning. It is Thursday, May 22nd. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Cloudy, pop-up showers today. We're only going to reach a high of 54. Tonight and overnight, cloudy, low 48. And then Friday, cloudy again, but a little bit warmer, high 63. If you are walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are. 49, raining in Nyack up in Rockland County. It's 53 and raining in Asbury Park down the Jersey Shore. And it's 48 and raining right outside our Midtown studios. We'll start this half hour over in New Jersey, where New Jersey Congresswoman LaMonica McIver faces up to 16 years in prison on 2 assault charges in that chaotic incident at a Newark, New Jersey ICE detention center earlier this month. The Democrats accused of attacking federal agents as they moved to arrest Newark Mayor Ross Baraka at a protest outside this hall, Delaney Hall. This was back on May 9th.
Well, I think, one, this is political intimidation from the Trump administration. I mean, me being charged is absurd, especially when I'm just there to do my job.
So that's McIver. She spoke to MSNBC yesterday. She appeared virtually at a 15-minute hearing yesterday, was released. She did not enter a plea. The feds charged McIver the same day, dropping trespassing charges against Baraka. That was the same day they charged her and dropped the charges against the mayor. The congresswoman blames the chaos at Delaney Hall on the feds.
The confusion and the chaos that you see was caused by ICE officials and Homeland Security. They created this unnecessary situation by arresting the mayor.
President Trump, he totally disagrees. He says the congresswoman is at fault here.
That woman was out of control. She was shoving federal agents. She was out of control. The days of that crap are over in this country. We're going to have law and order.
Now we'll have to wait and see what will be the next step for both her and the prosecutor. Hey, Joe, stay with us for just a minute. Your mom, of course, Maureen Nolan, was a Catholic school teacher for 18 years at Holy Trinity School in your hometown of Westfield. And tomorrow's a big day for you because you're going to honor her, as you always do, with the her memory with the Maureen Nolan Foundation fundraiser that raises money to provide scholarships to kids who might not be able to afford getting a Catholic school education. So tell me a little bit about this event tomorrow.
Right. Well, it's kids who are graduating from Catholic high school. They're going on to college or trade school or anything, whatever they can do, or wherever they're going to the next level. And we raise money and we give them scholarships, not big ones, small ones, but still, you have kids going to college.
Yeah, you have kids
small
going
to
college.
Yeah. Anything helps.
Yeah, sure does.
So again, that's what we do. It's down at the Crab's Claw in Lavallette, New Jersey. I know you've heard me mention that more than once over the years here. And we have Philip Phillips going to be there tomorrow, and then also a little later on a band called Jimmy and the Parrots. It goes all day long, and of course, it's all free, and it's just a fun day, great day down the Jersey Shore.
And if you can't make the event, but you want to donate to the cause, how can they do that?
mnolanfoundation.org.
All right. Well, fantastic. You've been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
It's a great cause, and I hope you have a fantastic day and raise a lot of money.
It's always a fun day, if nothing else.
Yeah. Well, let's hope some people throw some dollars your way as well. So.
Yeah, that'd be good. Thank you so much, Noam. Appreciate it.
Of course. 541. This is just a god-awful story after telling you that wonderful story about Joe and the way he has honored his mother's memory. A 44-year-old woman in critical condition after she was hit in the face and head several times on Randall's Island. This took place on Friday. It's 44-year-old Diana Aguadello, who was biking home from work in Manhattan. She was taking her usual shortcut through Randall's Island. This was about 11:30 at night when someone beat her so viciously that she had to be put into a medically induced coma. Now, she has a 21-year-old daughter. Her name is Stephanie. And as you might guess, she's totally devastated.
When I saw her in the hospital room, I remember just falling down to my knees. Because the woman I saw up there didn't look like my mom. She was so swollen.
Detectives have their work cut out for them because this is sort of a desolate area of Randall's Island. So apparently they don't really have any video or pictures yet to work on. And so they really need the public's help in solving this god-awful crime. In the end, they stole her mother's electric bike. Maybe that's all they were in for. Maybe she fought back. But it's not looking good for Stephanie's mom.
Even if she does wake up, what if she doesn't remember me? Like, what if she's not? What if she sees me and doesn't even know I'm her daughter?
Yeah, she was so badly beaten she could not give any information to police. So now they have posted pictures of her, hoping someone saw something on that night, on Friday night.
I just hope that if someone's out there, like whoever saw anything or sees anything, could come out and say something. Because I know if it was my mom who saw something, I know she would be the first one to speak up.
Yeah, I mean, it's just awful. One of her shoes, the mom's shoes, was found in a trash can. The bike was an e-bike. It was stolen. This was not far from where if you know Randall's Island, near the psychiatric hospital. So she's undergone emergency brain surgery, but the awful part is the prognosis is kind of bleak. Here's more from her daughter, Stephanie.
Like, I know I'm 21, but I feel like I'm still a kid. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I still need my mom.
Yeah, I mean, that's rough to listen to. You're 21, you're still a kid, by the way. So anyway, I wish you could tell her something better, but unfortunately, no. So now they're looking for the attacker as we pray that against all odds, her mother somehow recovers. 544. A Manhattan judge yesterday sentencing 3 men to decades in prison for facilitating what was a year-long induced robbery scheme at gay bars across the city. In fact, the attacks killed 2 men. So what these 3 individuals would do was they would drug victims at bars. They did put something in their drink that include fentanyl. And what would happen is these people would then go into some sort of drug-induced moment, and they would then steal their phones. They would take money from their banking apps. And yesterday, thankfully, the judge found all 3 of these, sentenced all 3 of these individuals involved in these crimes to a long time behind bars, maybe up to 3 decades. But the men stole thousands of dollars out of the banking apps of these people that they robbed. A number of them survived, but 2 of them died because it was fentanyl, and they were poisoned with fentanyl in their drinks. There were some victim impact statements made during this sentencing yesterday. Unfortunately, the audio, I wanted to play for you, but the audio is so bad it can't be heard, so it wasn't worth playing back. But you could, as you might imagine, it was quite emotional in that courtroom in Manhattan yesterday. All right, 545. Let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk, and here's Justin Allen.
Thank you, Noam Layden. Tough end last night at the Garden. The Knicks choking away Game 1 of their Eastern Conference Final Series against the Indiana Pacers. The final score 138-135 in overtime after Indiana's Tyrese Halliburton hit a jumper as regulation ended to stun MSG and force the extra time. The Knicks led by 14 points with under 3 minutes remaining in regulation, but Aaron Naismith brought the Pacers back with a flurry of 3-pointers. Halliburton then hoped he had won it with another. With the Pacers down 2 and time running down, he started to lose control of his dribble, regained it, and dribbled back toward the 3-point line. He fired up his jumper, and when it finally fell in, he raced toward the sideline, then made a choke signal to the crowd, like Pacers Hall of Famer Reggie Miller did to Spike Lee while leading an Indiana comeback in a playoff game in 1994. Replay confirmed that Halliburton's toe was on the line, and it was a 2-pointer that tied it at 125. Andrew Nembhard eventually made the go-ahead basket with 26 seconds remaining in OT. Jalen Brunson had 43. Karl Anthony Towns had 35 and 12 rebounds. Teams leading by at least 14 points in the final. 2 minutes and 45 seconds of the fourth quarter had been 994-0 since detailed play-by-play began being kept in 1997 and 98. Game 2 is Friday night from MSG. Tonight on the hardwood, 8:30 p.m., the Timberwolves and Thunder out in OKC. We'll get Game 2 underway. OKC leading that series 1-0. To the Diamond in the Bronx, Jason Dominguez homered in the bottom of the 9th inning to rally the Yankees to a 4-3 walk-off win over the Texas Rangers. Up next for the Yanks, the lefty Carlos Rodon gets a start in this afternoon's finale of this 3-game set against Texas as the Yanks go for the sweep. First pitch is scheduled for 12:35 p.m. from Yankee Stadium. In Boston, Brett Beatty drove in 3 3 runs on 2 hits, including a 2-run single to break a 7th-inning tie and help the Mets avert a 3-game sweep by beating the Red Sox 5-1. Up next for the Mets, they'll open a 3-game series against the Dodgers in New York tomorrow night after an off day today. And on the ice last night, final from Dallas, the Stars doubled up the Oilers 6-3 in Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. So Dallas jumps out to a 1-0 series lead there. That's your Sports Gnome, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:49. Let's go over to Queens, where an 11-year-old girl was riding her bike along a path. This was in Forest Park in Queens at about 4:30 in the afternoon Monday. She was with her dad. She turned a corner where her dad could no longer see her, and that's when a man suddenly snatched the girl off her bike, began dragging her into the woods. Officials say the man then punched the girl in her face. He then sexually assaulted her, groping her. Now, the dad, who then turned the corner just seconds later, saw the empty bike on the ground. His heart fell to his stomach, going, what the hell is going on? He raced up the bike path and then saw this man on top of his daughter, and that's when the man just ran away.
I feel like it's very safe. I mean, this is the first time I've ever heard anything like this, ever.
I think it's really terrible that you have people just walking around the street and just grabbing little children off a bike.
Yeah, so people in Forest Park say they always feel really safe there, so they were shocked by this crime. Cops have found the creep behind it, a 44-year-old, and his name is Teddy Masanjic, taken into custody. He faces a bunch of charges. That is, neighbors can't believe this kind of attack took place so close to their home.
This is like one of the safest places, I thought. I would never imagine something like that would happen here.
I know for a fact the police be patrolling this park because I've actually been here late hours and they pull up and they be like, guys, the park is closed, it's time to leave. But instead of just pulling up in the parking lot, maybe they should add more patrols inside the
park. Yeah, thank God that dad was there to save his 11-year-old girl. 5:51 from Queens. Let's head out to Long Island. A community on edge there, Sachem High School East on Long Island, following this confirmation that one student has tested positive for TB, tuberculosis. Health officials monitoring about 120 individuals who were exposed to this student. So they're waiting to see whether this prolonged, what's the word I'm looking for? Let's see. The prolonged exposure, there we go, it means more infections at the school. Now, so far, that hasn't been the case, but of course, parents are worried.
I think that's good. I'm glad they're testing. That's half the battle is, what's going on.
Yeah, so again, so far, no additional cases of TB have been confirmed at Sachem High School East out on Long Island. The new flight restrictions now in place at Newark Airport. Correspondent Emily Ikeda reports the FAA has issued an interim order that's capping the number of hourly arrivals and departures at 56. Now, that number's a little bit up from the original number they were proposing.
That reduction comes after the FAA met with airlines last week, writing the goal is to cut back on excessive flight delays due to construction, staffing challenges, and recent equipment issues that have plagued the airport.
Those problems include several radio outages. The latest occurred this week when there was those 2 seconds of radio silence we told you about. So now the issue is, will the slowing of flights help things out a bit at the airport?
With the FAA issuing an interim order immediately capping the number of hourly arrivals and departures, down from 77 under normal operations to 56 total.
Now, of course, the question is, how long will it take to fix what's wrong at the airport? They need more air traffic controllers, and the equipment that they're using is incredibly outdated. So all that has to be done, and none of those are quick fixes. 5:53. The New York State trooper that was charged with faking his own shooting on Long Island pleaded guilty yesterday. Thomas Messia admitted in court yesterday that he staged it, planting shell casings on the parkway and shooting himself in the leg.
I don't know that the issues existed back then when they hired him, but they certainly developed over time. It's not the easiest job, and he obviously suffered from some mental health issues that were never addressed.
That's
now they're being addressed.
Messia's attorney there, you might recognize the voice, Jeffrey Lickman. It was back in October where the 27-year-old claimed he was shot by the driver of a car on the Southern State Parkway. It triggered this massive manhunt. Police believe the reason behind the fake shooting was to get sympathy from his ex-girlfriend. He'll now have to pay close to $300,000 in restitution. His sentencing is set for August 20th. The federal deadline to end congestion pricing, we told you about this, it was yesterday. The MTA said, no, we're not going to turn off the congestion pricing cameras. Department of Transportation threatening New York to end the toll or risk losing federal dollars. Now, drivers, they were asked about this yesterday, and they say they weren't surprised that Governor Hochul made the decision to keep the cameras rolling.
Do you need it? I think so, because pollution is going up, but it's not a well thought out plan. I think it's really, really destroying the city itself.
To me, it's just a ripoff. Like, we're paying for the road twice. We built this road, so why are we paying again?
Meantime, data shows traffic is actually picking up in the congestion relief zone, even though it costs $9 to go in there. I've noticed that my ride, which was really short for a long time, is almost back to where it was before congestion pricing began. 23-year-old Israeli man who was held captive for over 500 days following the Hamas attack of October 7th, 2023. He was in New York here last night. His name is Omer Shem Tov. He was talking about all that's happened since he was been freed, and that so much will happen where he's in a moment where he's enjoying himself, and all of a sudden he'll be taken back to those 500 days he was held captive in a tunnel underneath Gaza.
Everything feels so surreal. I find myself sitting at the beach, in front of the sun, feeling the sun on my skin, and suddenly I go back, I go back in time, and I'm saying to myself, thank God that I'm home again.
23-year-old was released after 505 days of Hamas captivity, telling a crowd here in New York last night that being starved, which he was, biscuit a day, not easy.
Starvation, it's an awful thing. Seeing my bones, my shoulder bones, my rib cage, I can feel it. Not a lot of people can imagine what's true darkness. There were times I thought I went blind.
And he told the crowd last night that he has survivor's guilt because there's still hostages being held. Let's end on a happier note. U.S. News and World Report releasing its list of the best places to live in New York in 25-26. The town number one in New York, Massapequa Park on Long Island.
It's great. I'm here 52 years. Came from the city in Maspeth and moved here. People are great. Town is great. Food is great. What can I say? I love it.
U.S. News and World Report, they determine their ranking based on criteria including affordability, happiness, desirability, retiree taxes, job market, healthcare quality, and that's how they came up with Massapequa Park, the nicest town in New York. Here's the local town supervisor.
Our residents love the community. There's so much to be had in the downtown, how close it is to the railroad, how great the school district is.
So Massapequa Park was first in New York and 140th overall across the nation.
Nice village that they keep well and pretty well kept. And you get to some businesses pretty relatively easily. So long live Massapequa Park.
Yeah, if you've been there, you won't be shocked to hear that it made the list. Beautiful place.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?